Ameer Johnson, a 22-year-old hard-working student at a local college, juggling studies and part-time work to make ends meet. Mr. Aslam Davidson, a successful, wealthy businessman in his mid-40s, known for his sharp demeanor and high status in the city. Plot: Ameer Johnson, a struggling student from a working-class background, walks home from his part-time job late one evening. As he passes by the sidewalk, he notices a wallet lying on the ground. Curiosity leads him to open it, and inside, he finds a substantial amount of cash and a business card with the name Mr. Aslam Davidson, a successful businessman. Faced with a difficult choice, Ameer wonders, should he keep the money to help pay his bills, or should he return the wallet and its contents? The city streets were alive with energy as Ameer Johnson walked down the crowded sidewalk, the sound of honking cars and chatter filling the air. It was late. The lights from the street lamps illuminated the damp pavement as the evening rush started to die down. Ameer's footsteps echoed with a tired rhythm, and his hand subconsciously tightened around the wallet he found just an hour ago. The wallet felt heavier than it should have. The crisp bills inside seemed to mock him with their abundance. The weight pressed against his palm, and his stomach churned with each step he took. Rent, groceries, textbooks. The list of bills that loomed over him seemed endless. He could barely afford the bare minimum, and here, in his hand, was a lifeline. As he walked, his mind raced through the possibilities. The money inside the wallet was more than enough to cover his expenses for the next couple of months. The thought of not having to worry about how he was going to make it through the next few weeks was tempting, almost too tempting. But then his mind flashed back to the words of his mother. He could almost hear her voice in his head as if she were standing beside him. "Honesty is worth more than gold, son." Ameer's throat tightened. His mother had instilled in him values that guided him through his toughest moments. She had always said that integrity was the foundation of everything, that no matter how hard life got, doing the right thing would always lead to the right path. A sigh escaped his lips as he looked down at the wallet again. He thought of how easy it would be to slip the money into his pocket, never to be seen again. No one would know, no one would care. But Ameer knew deep down that he couldn't live with himself if he did that. The weight of the wallet felt heavier now, pressing on his conscience. Ameer stopped in front of a street vendor selling hot dogs and took a moment to breathe. His eyes glanced down at the wallet again, a pit forming in his stomach. He'd never been one to take shortcuts in life. He had worked hard for every penny he earned, and the idea of taking someone else's money just didn't sit right with him. His phone buzzed in his pocket, snapping him out of his reverie. He pulled it out and saw a notification for an upcoming payment deadline. It was from his landlord. The rent was due in just 2 days. Ameer shoved his phone back into his pocket and stopped in front of a bench, sitting down heavily. The weight of the wallet seemed to double in his hand. He could feel the temptation pulling at him. The money would solve so many problems. He could pay off his debts, buy some groceries, get the textbooks he'd been struggling to afford. For once, his life could feel a little bit easier, but then he remembered his mother's words again. Honesty is worth more than gold. Ameer swallowed hard. There was no way he could betray the values she had taught him. He couldn't live with himself if he didn't return the wallet. A deep breath escaped his chest. He took a look at the business card inside the wallet. Mr. Aslam Davidson, a name Ameer recognized, but only vaguely. He had heard of Mr. Davidson, a successful businessman who owned several companies in the city. His name was synonymous with wealth and success, but Ameer had never met him in person. Ameer looked around at the bustling streets and then glanced down at the wallet. He felt like a man at a crossroads. One path led to an easy solution, the other to uncertainty. But his heart told him there was only one right answer. With resolve, Ameer pulled out his phone again and searched for Mr. Davidson's office address. The search results showed a sleek, modern office building downtown, one of the tallest in the city. The thought of walking into that polished, high-rise building seemed intimidating, but it didn't matter. Ameer had made up his mind. The next day, Ameer set out early. He knew it wasn't going to be easy, but he had to do it. As he walked through the crowded city streets again, he clutched the wallet tightly in his hand, feeling the weight of his decision pressing against him. He tried not to focus on the doubts swirling in his mind. Would Mr. Davidson be angry? Would he be dismissed as just another poor kid trying to get attention? What if Mr. Davidson didn't even care about the wallet? What if it was just a trivial loss to him? Ameer arrived at Davidson Enterprises just after noon. The building loomed in front of him, a towering figure of glass and steel. It felt like an imposing fortress. He took a deep breath and walked toward the entrance. The polished glass doors slid open automatically as he approached, and he stepped into the cool, air-conditioned lobby. The receptionist looked up from her desk as Ameer approached. She gave him a once-over, clearly sizing him up. He felt the weight of her scrutiny but stood his ground. "Hi," Ameer began, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I'm looking for Mr. Aslam Davidson. I found something of his." The receptionist raised an eyebrow but gestured toward a set of elevators. "The CEO's office is on the top floor. Just take the elevator up and check in with his assistant." Ameer nodded, feeling a knot in his stomach. The elevator ride seemed to take forever. As he ascended, his mind raced with doubt. He could turn around now and walk out of the building. Nobody would ever know, but he knew he wouldn't. The elevator dinged as it reached the top floor, and Ameer stepped out. He was met by Mr. Davidson's assistant, a sharp-dressed woman in her late 20s. "Yes?" she asked, her voice professional. I found this wallet," Ameer stammered, holding it out. "It belongs to Mr. Aslam Davidson. I wanted to return it." The assistant took the wallet with a skeptical look, glancing at Ameer for a moment before turning and walking toward Mr. Davidson's office door. She knocked softly before entering. A few moments later, she returned and motioned for Ameer to come inside. Mr. Davidson was seated at a large, sleek desk reviewing documents. He looked up when Ameer entered, his expression neutral but curious. "What's this about?" Mr. Davidson asked. Ameer took a deep breath. "I found your wallet yesterday. I thought I should return it." He placed the wallet on the desk in front of him. Mr. Davidson raised an eyebrow, clearly not expecting this. He glanced at the wallet, then back at Ameer. "You're the one who found it?" "Yes, sir." "I just thought it was the right thing to do," Ameer said, feeling a little uncomfortable under the man's piercing gaze. For a moment, Mr. Davidson said nothing. He picked up the wallet and opened it, counting the cash inside. Ameer felt his heart race as he stood in silence. Was he going to be praised, or was he about to be dismissed as a fool? Finally, Mr. Davidson set the wallet down and looked at Ameer. "You could have just kept the money," he said, his voice low and calculating. "I wouldn't have known. No one would have." Ameer shook his head. "I couldn't do that, sir. It's not right." Mr. Davidson studied him for a moment, clearly impressed by Ameer's honesty. Then, with a small smile, he said, "Well, I respect your integrity. You've earned my attention at least." Ameer, unsure of what to say, simply nodded. "Thank you." Mr. Davidson's smile faded slightly. "But I don't expect you to expect anything in return. I'm just grateful you returned it." Ameer nodded again, and with that, he left the office, wondering whether the decision he'd just made had been the right one after all. Ameer Johnson stood at the entrance of Davidson Enterprises, the towering glass building standing like a monument to everything he wasn't: wealthy, powerful, untouchable. He felt like an imposter just standing there, his hands clammy as he clutched the wallet even tighter. He had walked past the building several times before, always admiring its sleek, polished look. But today, it felt different. Today, he was entering the world of the man whose wallet he had found. His heart raced as he stared at the receptionist behind the marble desk, her eyes scanning him over her sleek glasses. She seemed to be evaluating every inch of him, her expression giving nothing away. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice polite but unbothered. Ameer swallowed his nerves. "Hi, I'm looking for Mr. Aslam Davidson. I found something of his." His voice trembled slightly, and he cursed himself for not sounding more confident. The receptionist raised an eyebrow, but didn't seem surprised by his presence. Ameer didn't know if that was a good sign or a bad one. "Mr. Davidson's office is on the top floor. Take the elevator to your right," she said, pointing to a set of polished silver doors. "The assistant will be waiting for you." Ameer nodded, his heart sinking. He wanted to turn around and run, but something inside told him to keep going. With one last deep breath, he walked toward the elevator, trying to control the shaking in his hands. The elevator ride seemed to take forever. As the doors closed, Ameer felt like the walls were closing in around him. His reflection in the elevator mirror seemed almost foreign, like a stranger who didn't belong in this world. He was a college student struggling to make ends meet, and yet here he was, about to hand a wealthy businessman his lost wallet, with its substantial contents. The elevator dinged, and the doors opened to the top floor. Ameer stepped out and was immediately greeted by a sleek corridor lined with doors. He was directed to a waiting area outside Mr. Davidson's office. His eyes darted around the modern, minimalist design, glass walls, marble floors, and sleek furniture. Everything was cold, efficient, and expensive. He sat on one of the leather chairs, his nerves bubbling over. His stomach twisted as the weight of the situation sank in. He had returned the wallet. He had done the right thing. But now, he was about to face the man who owned the wallet. And for some reason, the thought of that made him feel smaller than he ever had before. Minutes later, the door to Mr. Davidson's office opened, and a tall figure emerged. Mr. Aslam Davidson was everything Ameer had imagined. He was imposing, with a sharp jawline and piercing blue eyes. His expensive suit was tailored perfectly to his frame, his presence commanding and cold. The moment Mr. Davidson walked into the room, Ameer felt like a child standing in front of a giant. The man's gaze swept over him, seemingly calculating and indifferent. "You're Ameer Johnson?" Mr. Davidson asked, his voice deep and direct, with no hint of warmth. Ameer nodded quickly, his voice barely a whisper. "Yes, sir. I found your wallet outside." Mr. Davidson didn't respond immediately, instead walking past Ameer and taking a seat behind his massive desk, his posture effortlessly commanding. He didn't invite Ameer to sit. Ameer, unsure of what to do, stood there awkwardly for a moment, clutching the wallet. Finally, he stepped forward, placing the wallet on the desk in front of Mr. Davidson. "I found this outside," Ameer said, his words coming out rushed. He couldn't look Mr. Davidson in the eyes for long, feeling the weight of judgment in the businessman's sharp stare. "There's a lot of money inside, but I figured you'd want it back." Mr. Davidson picked up the wallet without a word and examined it briefly. He opened it, glanced at the contents, cash, credit cards, identification, before looking back up at Ameer. His expression remained unreadable. "Thanks," Mr. Davidson muttered, his voice distant. "You could have just kept it, you know." Ameer's heart sank at the words. Could have kept it? He had done what he thought was right, but the lack of appreciation stung. The thought that Mr. Davidson considered it an option to simply keep the money made Ameer feel like his honesty didn't matter, like it was nothing more than a trivial decision. Ameer fought to maintain his composure. "This is what I did, and I don't regret it," he reminded himself. "I believe in doing the right thing," Ameer replied, his voice firm but calm. It wasn't just to Mr. Davidson. It was to himself as much as anyone else. He'd always believed in doing the right thing, no matter how small. He couldn't allow this man's indifference to shake his convictions. Mr. Davidson nodded briefly, then returned his attention to the wallet as if the interaction was already over. He didn't offer Ameer a word of thanks, nor did he show any sign of being impressed. Ameer stood there for a long moment, feeling awkward and out of place, before turning toward the door. "I should get going," Ameer said, his voice tight. He didn't wait for a response from Mr. Davidson. He didn't want to hear anything else. The awkwardness, the lack of acknowledgement, all of it was too much. He needed to leave. As Ameer reached the door, he heard Mr. Davidson's voice call out. "Hold on, Ameer," he said. "You did the right thing." There was no warmth in his tone, only a flat recognition of what had happened. "But don't expect anything in return. It was your choice." Ameer paused, hand on the door handle. He didn't know what he expected, but it wasn't this. His heart sank a little as he opened the door and stepped back into the corridor. The door closed behind him with a soft click, leaving him alone in the sterile hallway, unsure of what he had just experienced. Outside the building, the cold air hit him sharply, and he breathed in deeply. It had been the right decision. He had done the right thing, even if it felt like it didn't matter. But deep down, Ameer knew it did. The world may not always acknowledge integrity, but it was a quality that he would carry with him always. He just wished Mr. Davidson had seen that. As Ameer walked back into the busy streets of the city, the weight of the wallet was gone, but something else remained. A deep sense of quiet pride. His path wasn't defined by money or power. It was defined by the choices he made, the things he valued. And in the end, that was worth more than anything a wallet could ever offer. A few days had passed since Ameer had returned the wallet to Mr. Aslam Davidson. His life had returned to its familiar, monotonous rhythm. He worked his shifts at the small coffee shop, barely making enough to cover rent and groceries. When he wasn't working, he was studying late into the night, trying to catch up on assignments for his courses. It was a tiring routine, but it was the only one he knew. Ameer had pushed the whole wallet incident to the back of his mind. He had done what he thought was right, returned the wallet, didn't expect anything in return. He had resigned himself to the idea that people like Mr. Davidson weren't concerned with small gestures of honesty. For all Ameer knew, Mr. Davidson had forgotten about him, and life would go on. That is, until one evening when everything changed. Ameer was sitting in his small apartment, a mug of lukewarm coffee in front of him, his laptop open but the screen barely illuminated in the dim light. He stared at the words on the page, unable to focus. The fatigue from the long hours at the coffee shop and the stress of the bills piling up had drained him. He rubbed his eyes and leaned back in his chair, staring at the cracked ceiling. The silence was broken only by the sound of the refrigerator humming in the corner of the room. Suddenly, his phone rang, its shrill tone cutting through the stillness of the room. Ameer glanced at the screen, puzzled. It was an unknown number. He hesitated for a moment, wondering whether to pick up. Normally, he would ignore calls from numbers he didn't recognize, but something made him press the green button. "Hello?" Ameer answered, trying to sound calm, despite his heart racing a little at the unexpected interruption. "Is this Ameer Johnson?" a deep voice asked, unmistakably authoritative. "Yes, who's this?" Ameer responded, still a little confused. "This is Aslam Davidson," the voice replied. Ameer's heart skipped a beat. Aslam Davidson? The name sent a shockwave through him. He hadn't expected to hear from him again. Why would Mr. Davidson be calling? "Mr. Davidson? Why, what can I do for you?" Ameer stammered, unsure of what to say. His mind raced, trying to figure out why this successful businessman, whose world felt so far removed from his own, would be reaching out to him. "I think we should talk," Mr. Davidson said, his voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of something Ameer couldn't place. "Meet me tomorrow morning. I'll send you the details." Ameer's mind spun. What could he want with me? His thoughts scrambled for an answer, but before he could ask any more questions, the line went dead. The sudden silence left him frozen, staring at the phone in his hand. His heart thudded in his chest, a mix of confusion and anticipation growing inside him. Why would Mr. Davidson want to meet him? Ameer had returned the wallet, but that didn't mean anything, did it? Why would the man want to talk to him now, several days later? Ameer set the phone down on the table, feeling a growing knot in his stomach. He wanted to dismiss the call as some sort of mistake or a fluke, but the more he thought about it, the more he realized it was real. This wasn't just a random call. Mr. Aslam Davidson wanted to meet him. He tried to return to his work, but his mind kept drifting back to the conversation. He couldn't help but feel a wave of anxiety. What did he want? His phone buzzed again, and this time it was a text message from an unknown number. The text read, "Ameer, it's Aslam Davidson. I've arranged a meeting for tomorrow at 10 a.m. The address is the Marlowe Hotel, Suite 1201. Please be there on time." Ameer stared at the message, reading it over and over, as if hoping the words would make more sense. The Marlowe Hotel? It was one of the most expensive hotels in the city, known for its luxury and exclusivity. Why would Mr. Davidson want to meet at such a place? What did he want with someone like Ameer? The questions swirled in his mind, and for the first time in days, Ameer felt a knot of dread and excitement in the pit of his stomach. He didn't know what was about to happen, but one thing was for sure. It was going to change everything. The night dragged on as Ameer lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. He tossed and turned, his mind racing. The more he thought about the meeting, the more anxious he became. Was he in trouble? Had he made a mistake returning the wallet? No, he reminded himself. He had done the right thing. He had to believe that. By morning, Ameer had convinced himself that he had to go to the meeting. He had no choice. He couldn't back down now, not when Mr. Davidson had gone out of his way to contact him. This was a chance to change his life. Maybe, just maybe, it was a chance to prove to himself that doing the right thing would eventually pay off. Ameer dressed quickly, trying to shake the feeling of nervousness that gnawed at him. He took a bus to the Marlowe Hotel, his heart pounding in his chest. The hotel's grandeur stunned him when he arrived. It was a towering structure, its glass facade reflecting the morning sun. Inside, the lobby was pristine and elegant, with marble floors and high ceilings. Ameer took a deep breath before stepping forward, walking to the front desk where a concierge greeted him with a professional smile. "Good morning, sir. You must be Ameer Johnson?" she asked, glancing down at a reservation list. "Yes," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Davidson is expecting you," she said with a smile, pointing toward the elevator. "Please head to the top floor, Suite 1201. I'll notify him of your arrival." Ameer nodded, feeling a rush of uncertainty again. The elevator doors closed, and he stood there alone, watching the floors pass by as the elevator ascended higher and higher. His heart beat faster with each floor, the realization hitting him that his life was about to change. He just didn't know how yet. The doors opened, and Ameer stepped out onto the top floor of the hotel. Suite 1201 was just ahead. He walked down the plush carpeted hallway, each step feeling like it echoed in the silence around him. The door to the suite was slightly ajar, and Ameer hesitated for a moment before knocking softly. "Come in," a deep voice called from inside. Ameer pushed the door open, stepping into the lavish suite. The room was bright and airy, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of the city skyline. And sitting at the large mahogany desk, staring at papers, was Mr. Aslam Davidson. He looked up from his work as Ameer entered, his expression neutral. "Ah, Ameer, please come in. Have a seat." Ameer hesitated for a moment before taking a seat in front of Mr. Davidson. His mind raced with 1,000 questions, but he didn't know where to begin. "Thank you for coming," Mr. Davidson said, folding his hands on the desk. "I'm sure you're wondering why I asked you to meet me." "It's simple, really," Ameer nodded, trying to steady his nerves. "Yes, sir. I don't really know what to expect." "Well," Mr. Davidson said, his eyes narrowing slightly, "you did something most people would never do. You returned my wallet knowing full well that you could have kept it. And I respect that." Ameer's chest tightened at the words. He had expected a scolding, maybe even an explanation of how insignificant his actions had been. But this was different. This was unexpected. "I wanted to meet you," Mr. Davidson continued, "because honesty is a rare thing, and in a world like ours, it's something worth rewarding." He paused, watching Ameer closely. "I have an offer for you." The next morning, Ameer woke early, his mind racing with a mix of anticipation and doubt. The luxurious address Mr. Davidson had given him echoed in his thoughts as he prepared for the meeting. Why would he want to meet me? Ameer wondered. He had barely done anything extraordinary, just returned a lost wallet. Surely there were more important matters to Mr. Davidson's day than this. He glanced in the mirror, adjusting his shirt one last time before walking out the door. The weight of his decision felt heavier than usual as he headed to the upscale cafe Mr. Davidson had chosen. It was known for its polished marble countertops, sleek ambiance, and an air of exclusivity that made Ameer feel a little out of place even before stepping inside. As he approached the cafe, his stomach twisted. The tall glass windows reflected the morning sunlight, the glint of it making the exterior gleam with perfection. He had never felt so out of his element before, but he didn't have time to waste. He had been given an opportunity, even if he didn't fully understand it yet. Ameer walked in and scanned the room. His eyes immediately found Mr. Aslam Davidson, seated at a table near the window, a coffee cup resting in front of him. He wore a dark suit, his demeanor still as commanding as it had been at the office. There was a certain stillness about him, confident, calm, almost indifferent. As soon as their eyes met, Mr. Davidson gave a small, almost imperceptible gesture toward the chair across from him. Ameer hesitated for a moment, then walked toward the table, trying not to let his nerves show. He sat down and glanced briefly at the coffee cup, unsure of whether to speak or wait. The tension in the air was palpable. Before Ameer could say anything, Mr. Davidson spoke, his voice cutting through the silence. "You must be wondering why I called you here." His gaze didn't leave Ameer's face as he continued, his tone direct and unwavering. "It's because I've been thinking a lot about what you did. Returning my wallet. Most people would have kept the money." Ameer shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his hands fiddling with the edge of his napkin. How did he know I was thinking about that? The question lingered, but Ameer pushed it aside. This meeting wasn't about the wallet anymore. It was about something much larger. "I didn't want to," Ameer responded, his voice quieter than he intended. He paused for a moment, then added, I couldn't keep it." Mr. Davidson leaned forward slightly, studying Ameer's face with a piercing gaze. The silence between them hung thick, as if Mr. Davidson was analyzing every word, every small gesture. Finally, he nodded once, the briefest acknowledgement. "I respect that," Mr. Davidson said, his voice deepening with sincerity. "And that's why I'm offering you something." Ameer's breath caught in his throat. An offer? What could this man possibly want to offer me? Mr. Davidson pulled a small business card from his jacket pocket and slid it across the table. The sleek black card had a single, elegant logo embossed in gold, and beneath it the words, Davidson Enterprises, in bold lettering. Ameer's mind raced as he took the card, his fingers almost trembling with disbelief. "I want to fund your tuition for the rest of your education," Mr. Davidson continued, his eyes never leaving Ameer's. "And after you graduate, I can offer you a position at my company." Ameer sat in stunned silence, the weight of Mr. Davidson's words sinking in like a stone in his stomach. Fund my tuition? Offer me a job? His mind raced to process it all. He had barely met this man, done nothing extraordinary in his eyes. Why me? He opened his mouth to speak but hesitated, unsure how to respond. Finally, he managed to say, "Why would you do that for me? I don't deserve it." Mr. Davidson leaned back in his chair, folding his arms across his chest. The confident businessman now seemed to soften slightly, his expression less guarded. "You have something that's rare in this world. Integrity." He let the words hang in the air for a moment, his voice deep and thoughtful. "I respect that more than you know. It's a quality that can take you places." Ameer's eyes widened as Mr. Davidson's words settled over him. Integrity? It felt surreal. Ameer had never thought much about how others saw him. especially someone as high up as Mr. Davidson. To hear him speak with such respect and admiration was almost more overwhelming than the offer itself. "You didn't ask for anything," Mr. Davidson continued, his voice softening slightly. "And that's why I want to give you a chance. I don't offer this kind of help to just anyone but you." He paused, his tone becoming more personal. "You have the kind of character that's rare in this world. You could go far, Ameer. I want to help you get there." Ameer felt his heart racing as he processed what Mr. Davidson was saying. He had always dreamed of going to a good school, getting an education that could lift him out of the cycle of struggle. But now here was an opportunity, one that he hadn't even dared to imagine. A chance to finish his education without the looming threat of debt. A chance to step into a future he had never believed was possible. "I don't know what to say," Ameer muttered, still in shock. "I don't think I deserve this." "I didn't do anything special." Mr. Davidson's expression softened further. "You did the right thing, Ameer. In a world that often rewards selfishness, you chose honesty." He leaned forward, his voice quiet but firm. "That is something worth investing in." For a long moment, Ameer didn't know what to say. His emotions swirled inside him, a mix of disbelief, gratitude, and guilt. He had always worked so hard, struggled so much, that the idea of someone just giving him a chance felt both surreal and overwhelming. "I can't accept," Ameer said suddenly, his voice more confident than he felt. "I mean, it's too much." "You don't even know me." Mr. Davidson smiled faintly, understanding in his eyes. "I don't need to know you. What I do know is that people like you don't come around every day. The world doesn't make it easy for people to stay honest, to stay true to their values. That's why I want to help you, so you can do the things you're meant to do." Ameer's hands trembled slightly as he took the card from the table, turning it over in his hands. The weight of the decision was heavy, but somewhere deep inside him, Ameer knew that this was an opportunity he couldn't afford to ignore. "I'll do my best," Ameer said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Thank you." Mr. Davidson smiled, and for the first time there was a warmth in his expression that Ameer hadn't expected. "That's all I ask. Now go. The future is yours to shape." Ameer left the cafe in a daze, the words still ringing in his ears. "I don't deserve this, but I'll make sure I do." He couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a dramatic turn, one that he never could have imagined. As he walked down the busy streets, his steps were lighter than they had been in weeks. The city that had once felt so overwhelming now seemed full of possibility. He had been given a chance. Now he had to make it count. The night after his meeting with Mr. Aslam Davidson, Ameer lay awake in his small, dimly lit apartment, staring up at the cracked ceiling. His mind was a swirling mess of thoughts, each one pulling him in a different direction. Mr. Davidson's offer echoed in his mind, growing louder with every passing minute. "I want to fund your tuition, and after you graduate, I can offer you a job." Ameer had never imagined something like this would happen to him. A chance to escape the crushing weight of student loans. A chance to stop juggling part-time jobs while struggling to stay afloat. A chance to walk into a career that would set him up for life. It seemed like a dream, an impossible dream, one that a person like him didn't deserve. He tossed and turned in his bed, the questions swirling around in his mind. Why would Mr. Davidson offer me this? He wondered. He's a powerful businessman, and I'm just a poor student trying to survive. The nagging thought wouldn't leave him. What if he didn't deserve the scholarship? What if he wasn't good enough for the opportunity? Ameer had always been proud of his humble roots. He had worked hard for everything he had, never expecting anything to be handed to him. Every dollar he earned had been hard-won. Every grade he achieved had been earned through sleepless nights and sacrifices. But now here was an offer, a handout some would call it, and Ameer couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't his to take. What if I'm just being offered charity? The thought gnawed at him, making him feel small. What if I don't live up to his expectations? What if I fail him, just like I failed myself before? His mind raced, and the more he thought about it, the harder it became to sleep. He kept thinking about his mother's words. Honesty is worth more than gold, son. but he felt like the integrity that had guided him so far in life might now be leading him down the wrong path. The pressure of the decision pressed on his chest like a weight he couldn't escape. He had to make the right choice, the choice that would shape his future. The ticking of the old clock on the wall was the only sound in the room, each second feeling like an eternity. He reached over to his nightstand and picked up the business card Mr. Davidson had given him. The sleek black card stared back at him, the gold lettering gleaming faintly in the dim light. Ameer ran his fingers over the surface, feeling the smooth texture beneath his fingertips. Davidson Enterprises. It was a world he had never been a part of, a world so far removed from his own. What if this offer is too good to be true? Ameer's mind screamed. What if I'm just a charity case to him? Someone he's offering a handout to out of some misplaced sense of responsibility. He closed his eyes, feeling trapped by his own thoughts. He had never been one to take shortcuts in life, but this opportunity was different. His pride, his work ethic, everything he believed in was suddenly being tested. He had always been taught to earn everything he got, to never rely on anyone, to work for his future. Was accepting Mr. Davidson's offer the same as accepting charity? Was he betraying his own values? Ameer sat up in bed, running his hands through his hair. The night seemed endless, and he felt as if the decision had consumed him completely. His mind kept circling back to one thought. I have to do this on my own. The words felt right. His conscience told him that no matter how tempting the offer was, he couldn't take something that wasn't earned. He didn't want to live in someone else's shadow. He didn't want to be a project, a charity case. He wanted to prove that he could make it on his own, without the help of anyone else. The next morning, Ameer didn't waste any time. He got up early, his mind made up. He dressed quickly, trying to ignore the anxiety that crept into his chest. Today, he would go to Mr. Davidson's office and tell him that he couldn't accept the offer. As he walked down the familiar streets toward Davidson Enterprises, Ameer's heart pounded. It felt like the right thing to do, but there was still a voice in the back of his head questioning whether he was making a mistake. He pushed the thought away. He reached the towering office building, the glass facade reflecting the morning sunlight. It felt intimidating, almost like a world he didn't belong to. But he stood tall, walked in with purpose, and approached the receptionist. I have a meeting with Mr. Davidson, Ameer said, his voice steady despite the nervousness building inside him. The receptionist looked at him for a moment before giving a curt nod. Please wait here. I'll let him know you're here. Ameer took a seat in the waiting area, trying to calm his racing thoughts. He fidgeted with his hands in his lap, fighting the urge to stand up and leave. He knew what he had to do, but the weight of the moment felt heavier than he had anticipated. After what felt like an eternity, the receptionist returned. Mr. Davidson is ready for you. Ameer stood up, smoothing out his shirt. He followed the receptionist down the hallway, his footsteps echoing in the silent corridor. He arrived at Mr. Davidson's office, and the receptionist knocked gently on the door before opening it. Mr. Davidson, Ameer Johnson is here, she announced, stepping aside to let Ameer in. Ameer walked into the office, where Mr. Davidson sat behind his large desk, flipping through some papers. The office was as pristine and imposing as the building outside, with dark wood furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows offering a breathtaking view of the city. Mr. Davidson looked up as Ameer entered, his face neutral yet his eyes sharp as ever. Ameer, come in. Take a seat. Ameer sat down in front of the desk, his heart pounding in his chest. He took a deep breath before speaking. I appreciate your offer, Mr. Davidson. I really do. But I can't accept it, Ameer said, his voice firm. I can't accept charity. I have to earn it myself. I've always believed that if I want something, I have to work for it. I can't take something I didn't earn. Mr. Davidson raised an eyebrow, his gaze steady and calculating. You're turning down a full scholarship, an opportunity that could change your life. You realize that, right? Ameer nodded. I do, but it's not the way I want to do it. I've worked hard for everything I have, and I believe I can do it on my own. I can't accept something that feels like a handout. Mr. Davidson studied him for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then, to Ameer's surprise, he smiled slightly and nodded. I respect that, Ameer, Mr. Davidson said, his tone neutral. I'm not offering charity. I'm offering you an opportunity, but it's your choice. Ameer felt a weight lift off his shoulders, but at the same time, he wondered if he had made the right decision. I have to do it on my own, Ameer repeated more firmly this time. Davidson nodded, impressed by Ameer's conviction. I respect that, he said, but the offer still stands. If you change your mind, let me know. Ameer stood up, feeling both relieved and uncertain. Thank you for understanding. Davidson's smile was small but sincere. Good luck, Ameer. I believe in you. Ameer left the office, his heart still racing, but a sense of clarity settling over him. He had made his decision. Now it was up to him to prove that he could make it on his own. Ameer's life resumed its unrelenting pace. The weight of his decision to turn down Mr. Davidson's offer still lingered in his mind, but he pushed it aside as he returned to his routine. His days were filled with long shifts at the coffee shop, late nights studying, and weekends spent volunteering at a local shelter. His world was simple but demanding, the kind of life where every dollar mattered, every minute of sleep was precious, and every day was a fight to stay afloat. Ameer often thought about the offer he had turned down, but he convinced himself that his decision was the right one. He wanted to prove to himself that he could build a future on his own terms, without anyone's charity or handouts. The freedom of self-reliance was worth the struggle. The money he earned from extra shifts at the cafe and freelance work barely covered his rent and textbooks, but he managed. Slowly, he began to feel like he was gaining control over his life. That maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as far off from his dreams as he had once feared. The pressure was exhausting. But Ameer never allowed himself to give up. His mother's voice still echoed in his mind, reminding him that integrity was worth more than anything else. He found solace in the simple moments, the time spent helping at the shelter, seeing the gratitude in people's eyes when he gave them a warm meal. It wasn't much, but it was something. He was building his life, brick by brick. One late afternoon, as Ameer finished up his shift at the cafe, he stepped out into the crisp air, his tired legs dragging beneath him. The sun was beginning to set, casting a soft orange glow over the city streets. He glanced over at the cafe window as he passed, and something caught his eye. Mr. Aslam Davidson was sitting at a corner table inside, talking to one of his business partners. Their conversation was animated, and Ameer's first instinct was to keep walking, to keep his head down and avoid drawing attention to himself. But then, to his surprise, Mr. Davidson looked up, his sharp gaze locking onto Ameer's. There was no coldness in his eyes, no judgment, just a small, appreciative smile. Ameer froze in his tracks, unsure of what to do. He hadn't expected to see Mr. Davidson here, let alone to be acknowledged. Mr. Davidson stood up from his table, his business partner still talking, oblivious to the exchange taking place. The moment he stood, he walked directly toward Ameer, his expression warm and genuine. I've been watching you, Mr. Davidson said, his voice calm and kind. And I'm proud of you. You're doing it the right way. Ameer's heart skipped a beat, and he felt a flush of embarrassment creep up his neck. I didn't expect you to be watching me, he said, his voice unsure, even though he couldn't hide the gratitude that was rising inside him. Mr. Davidson smiled again, his eyes softer than Ameer had ever seen them. I don't usually, he admitted, lowering his voice slightly as if sharing a secret. But you've earned my respect. Not many people do. Ameer was stunned. He hadn't expected any recognition, especially from someone like Mr. Davidson, someone who seemed so far removed from his world. The man had made an offer that could have changed Ameer's life, and yet here he was, acknowledging Ameer's hard work and perseverance. Ameer took a moment to process what Mr. Davidson had said, the weight of his words sinking in. For so long, Ameer had lived in the shadows, trying to make it on his own, never seeking validation from others. He didn't need praise, he told himself. His mother had taught him that the reward for hard work was in the work itself. But hearing those words from Mr. Davidson, a man who had every reason to overlook him, filled him with a quiet sense of pride. You've been watching me? Ameer repeated, his voice still in disbelief. Why? Mr. Davidson's smile deepened, and he looked past Ameer for a moment, his gaze thoughtful. I believe in giving credit where credit is due. Most people would have taken the easy route. They would have taken the money, but you didn't. He paused, his tone serious. That says something about your character. Ameer didn't know how to respond to that. Character. That was a word he'd always taken to heart. His mother had instilled in him the idea that who you were mattered more than what you had. And here was someone who saw that, who recognized it, and who respected it. I don't know what to say, Ameer said, his voice thick with emotion. I never expected you to notice. I was just doing what felt right. Mr. Davidson's expression softened. It's rare to find someone who holds on to their values in a world that often rewards the opposite. People like you, Ameer, they don't come around every day. Ameer could feel the weight of the compliment, and yet a part of him remained unsure. What did it mean? What was he supposed to do with this recognition? I'm just trying to make it work, Ameer said quietly, his eyes dropping to the sidewalk for a moment. It's not easy, but I'm doing my best. Mr. Davidson's gaze softened, and he placed a hand on Ameer's shoulder in a gesture of solidarity. I see that, and that's why I'm proud of you. Keep going! Don't stop. He paused, his voice lowering. Whatever you decide, know that I'm here to support you. Not because you need me, but because I believe in what you're doing. Ameer's throat tightened, and for the first time in a long time he felt something shift inside him. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time he felt like he wasn't alone in the struggle. Mr. Davidson's words were more than just praise. They were a reminder that even in a world that often seemed cold and indifferent, there were still people who noticed, who respected the effort, the integrity, the drive to do things the right way. Thank you, Ameer said, his voice barely above a whisper. I won't let you down. Mr. Davidson smiled, his eyes filled with a mix of pride and encouragement. I know you won't. As Mr. Davidson turned back to rejoin his business partner, Ameer stood there for a moment, still processing everything. He hadn't expected this moment, this validation. He didn't need it, but it was like a spark of encouragement in a world that often felt indifferent. Ameer watched Mr. Davidson walk back inside the cafe, the door closing softly behind him. He took a deep breath and continued down the street, feeling lighter than he had in weeks. He had no idea what the future held, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it, not just with determination, but with the knowledge that he was on the right path. A year had passed since Ameer had turned down Mr. Aslam Davidson's life-changing offer. Ameer had finished his degree with honors, and while it hadn't been easy, he had persevered through long nights of studying, working multiple jobs, and navigating the challenges of life. His grades were better than he ever imagined, and for the first time, he felt like his future was truly within his reach. The cafe where he had once worked part-time had become a place where customers often greeted him by name, praising his work ethic and the kindness he had shown over the years. Ameer was no longer the struggling student. He was a symbol of resilience and determination. The local community knew him as a hard-working, kind-hearted person, someone who believed in doing the right thing, no matter how difficult. Ameer had never expected any recognition. His journey had always been about staying true to his values, but slowly, word of his efforts had spread. People from his community, from the university, even from the local shelter where he volunteered on weekends, had begun to appreciate not just his work, but the integrity that defined him. One crisp morning, as Ameer sat in his small apartment, sipping his coffee and sorting through his mail, a letter caught his eye. It was addressed to him, but the handwriting on the envelope was unfamiliar. He opened it carefully, intrigued, and began to read. Dear Mr. Ameer Johnson, I'm Tyler and I'm 9 years old. My mom was really sick and we couldn't afford her medicine. We were so scared she wouldn't get better, but you helped us when we didn't even know what to do. I wanted to say thank you for saving her life. I'll never forget what you did for us. I hope that one day I can help someone too, just like you helped us. Thank you again. You're my hero. Tyler. Ameer sat back in his chair, stunned. His breath caught in his throat as he reread the letter, a lump forming in his chest. A hero? Me? He thought, his mind struggling to grasp the impact of the words. This was a child's letter, a simple, heartfelt thank you from someone who had no idea just how much his small act of honesty had touched their lives. Ameer's mind flashed back to the day he had returned Mr. Davidson's wallet. That simple decision, that choice to do what was right, had set off a chain of events that he couldn't have predicted. He had never expected anything in return. But now, here was Tyler, a young boy who, in some small way, had been touched by Ameer's actions. Ameer smiled, the tears he had been holding back now threatening to spill over. The letter was a reminder of why he had made the choices he had. It wasn't about recognition. It wasn't about reward. It was about living a life that mattered, a life that made a difference. He thought about Mr. Davidson's words. Kindness is rare in this world, Ameer, but when you find it, you hold on to it. And when you pass it on, it comes back full circle. Ameer had never truly understood what those words meant until now. This was the full circle. His act of honesty had not only helped one person, it had set off a ripple effect that was spreading, touching the lives of others in ways he couldn't have imagined. It was the kind of ripple that carried on, like waves in the ocean, reaching out farther and farther. One small gesture at a time. The next day, Ameer stood in front of the community shelter, handing over a large check that would help cover medical bills for families in need. He had started the Miller Promise, a fund he had created to honor his mother and the lessons she had taught him about kindness and integrity. The fund had grown over the past year, with donations coming in from all over the community, and now it was making a real impact. The shelter had become one of the main beneficiaries, helping families like Tyler's, who couldn't afford basic medical care. As Ameer watched a family leave the shelter with the medicine they needed, he felt a sense of peace settle over him. His life wasn't perfect, and it wasn't without its struggles. But in this moment, he felt like he was exactly where he needed to be. He had learned that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could change the world, and the more you gave, the more you received. A week later, Ameer returned to his old university. He had been invited to speak at a graduation ceremony, where he was recognized not just for his academic achievements, but for his work in the community. As he stood on the stage, his heart swelling with pride, he glanced out at the sea of faces in the audience. Among them was his mother, sitting in the front row, tears of joy in her eyes. He spoke briefly, telling the graduates about his journey, the struggles, the doubts, the hard work. But he also told them about the power of honesty, the importance of staying true to one's values, and the way that simple acts of kindness could create a ripple effect that changed the world. As he finished his speech, Ameer walked off the stage, a sense of accomplishment filling his chest. He had done it. He had made it. And it wasn't just because of the scholarship or the job offer that could have changed his life. It was because he had stayed true to who he was, and because his choices had made a difference in ways he never expected. That evening, after the ceremony, Ameer returned to his apartment. He sat down on his couch, took a deep breath, and glanced at the letter again. "Thank you for saving my mom's life." The words still held so much meaning. He set the letter down gently, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a deep sense of contentment. His journey had come full circle. One act of kindness can start a ripple that echoes through lifetimes. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories every day.